rise. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Steve, would you bless us food for us?
She always forgets. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to get together in the name of Kiwanis, but ultimately in your name as well, as we seek to serve your purposes for us. Be with us and guide us. Bless this food to nourish my body and us to thy service. Amen.
Thank you. Have a seat. Oh, I'm sorry. Stand back up.
No. You gotta make up your mind now.
I know. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time. Now have a seat, please. Thank you for being here. We want to welcome our guests from Coates, and I'd like to call on Sandy Howard for the introductions, please.
Okay, we have with us Linda Cobb and Pat Godwin. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce my guest, Mr. Drew Bain, good friend of mine, young man that I'm a neighbor and I've watched him grow up, and I'm just proud that he is in our midst.
Thank you.
He barely made that intro. Yes. Wanted to remind everybody that we've got a golf tournament coming up May 18th. Once again, want you to know that this is our one and only fundraiser for the year. It is incredibly important that we do well. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback with whole sponsorships, so I'm hoping that we can at least equal to or surpass what we have done last year. But it seems to be in a very positive direction. Right now, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ricky Creech, who is head or director, rather, of the Waccamaw Boys and Girls Home of North Carolina, that we all have a very soft spot in our heart for. And without any further ado, Mr. Ricky Creech.
Sure. Thank you.
Have at it.
Thank you. Pleasure being here. Thank you.
You can stand or sit or however you want to do it.
Well, conversationally. So I'm the new kid on the block. An organization that started in 1954, as you all well know. A lot of things are changing within our agency, and a lot of that is being fueled by the child welfare reform that has been in motion since 2015. In 2015, the federal government passed the most sweeping legislature in child welfare reform that surpassed anything in the last 20 years. And so we now have some federal mandates, and the states have been kind of fighting it along the way. And so while it was enacted in 2015, it's just now the feds have said, quit kicking the can down the road, and so they are mandating the states to implement it, or federal funds for child welfare from the federal government will be withheld from states that don't go ahead and implement. So that was part of my charge in coming to the Boys and Girls Home, and probably, you know, they had some great candidates, but I've been working with this reform and already done some stuff with it in Kentucky. And so kind of my specialty was the knowledge and the experience I had with the Family First Services Preservation Act, and which is what it's called. And so it calls for a lot of things that affects not only what we do residentially, but our community-based services. And like everything, or like, well, just about everything that comes out of Washington, a lot of it is unrealistic. They're completely out of touch with what's really going on with abused and neglected children. If you read, and so there's some things that I'm fighting as well, because basically if you read that legislature and read it good, you will see that it's designed to close group homes. Okay, that's what it's designed to do, is to close group homes. Because in a perfect world and in an ideal world, the federal government wants every child in a foster home that doesn't have parents. They want them in a foster home with a foster family or adopted out, not living in congregate care. You know, that's ideal. That's what I want for every kid that's on our campus right now. I want them to find a forever family. But the reality is it's not going to happen because there's not enough families that are willing to foster kids. Now, there's a whole waiting list that want a newborn baby or that want a toddler, you know. But how many folks are willing to take on a 15 or 16 or 17-year-old? And those are very few. And that's basically what ends up staying in our care. And so what we decided to do is to up our level of care so that we're just not another group home in North Carolina, but that we're going to meet the federal requirements of Family First, and we're going to exceed it in that, because you know, one of the things is these courts will be deciding, you know, where to place kids. And so my goal and my vision is to be the preferred provider in group home care in the state of North Carolina. One of the things that really bothered me when I first come, and should bother everybody, just folks don't know about it, but one of the things I discovered that's unique from any place that I've ever served before is when a kid who has been abused and neglected comes into a group home that we're certified, which is called a level 1, that's group home. Did you know that the state does not require therapy for these kids? I don't know of anybody that's been abused and neglected that doesn't need therapy. That's trauma, you know. And, you know, not recognizing that and not treating that, we already know what the research shows. The research shows that untreated trauma in childhood and adolescent life will lead to a young adulthood that is either addicted to drugs, involved in crime, they're going to kill somebody, or they're going to be killed, you know, and then we're going to end up taking care of them in our penal system or in some other human service arena for the rest of their lives. That's just facts. Research shows that. North Carolina is behind in child welfare compared to other states. And I remember one of the first conversations I had with the state when I came, and I said, are you really telling me, you know, that kids do not have to see a therapist, that you're not treating it? And they said no. And I said, well, how's that working out? You know, and she laughed and she said, I completely agree. It's asinine, you know. So,
Excuse me.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, but that really intrigues me. Is it a cost issue? Is it
It's just,
what is it? Why do they not have to have therapy?
it's just not mandated.
Why is it not there?
I have no
North
idea.
Carolina is notorious for its lack of
Stupidity.
concern and funding for any mental care.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure at the end,
therapy.
you know,
Is
but
it-
That's why we don't have Lee Hornet over here anymore.
Is it a stigma about it? Is it funding?
It is not politically important or
Right.
imperative. It is a part of the electorate that doesn't have any power.
I agree,
I'm
yeah.
talking about people that
Yeah,
don't
I
have
agree.
mental.
and I came from a state I came from Kentucky, and it was mandated by the state of Kentucky that, you know, every kid in my care had to have an individual session every week, had to have a group session every week, and had to have a family session every week. They had to have 3 sessions every week. You know.
I didn't mean to get you off.
And no, that's fine. And, you know, so, you know, one of the first things I did is I started hiring clinicians. I told my board, I said that, you know, while we are labeled a group home, we're actually going to implement things that would qualify us as a residential treatment facility. I said, I'm not interested in warehousing kids until they age out and get them out of here. I'm interested in treating kids. If a kid can't leave here better than when they came, mentally, and emotionally, they do physically, then we're not doing what we need to be doing. And the board wholeheartedly agreed. And and Gary Faircloth and I had this discussion when I came on board. There was a kind of a transition time, and he and I talked about how the kids we're getting today are not the type of kids we got 10 years ago. They're not the type of kids that when Gary was a child at the home. The kids that are coming here, 96% of my kids have diagnosable PTSD. We know a lot about military PTSD. We're throwing all kind of money into PTSD. But what do you know about PTSD among kids in foster care? Did you know PTSD among kids in foster care is 70 times higher than military PTSD?
And remind us again what
because they've been-
PTSD is.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Because they've been traumatized.
Over
And
and over
over
and over again, And it's just, when I was in Kentucky, I always talked about, because we were kind of in the Appalachian Kentucky, my campus was in a holler. And when I'd go out and speak, I'd say, I'm the mayor of the city of invisible children. Because nobody wants to talk about my kids. Nobody wants to talk about Angel, who came to me, who was literally caged in her room from a toddler until she was 12 years old. Nobody wants to talk about Angel. Nobody wants to talk about the fact, that she never had a hot meal in her life until I took her. The first hot meal she ever had was at my facility. She was never allowed her entire time to go use the bathroom by herself. They would take her, they would watch her, they would not let her wash her hands because they were scared she would drink from the tap. And they had already done research on just how much food and water they could give her so that she wouldn't die. And that's exactly what her parents was doing. Nobody wants to hear that the mother made the brother have sex with his sister and make the younger sister watch. Nobody wanted to hear any of that about Angel, because that's the heart. That's the kind of world that we live in, And it's the same way with the kids that are in care here. Every one of them have been abused and neglected. I have kids that right now that we got out of sex trafficking. Most of our teen moms were sex trafficked. Come from horrific. And so to say we're not going to treat them is a very, very disrespectful to them, and we're not doing our job. So now we have a whole bunch of therapists on our staff. Every kid has a therapist. Every kid gets individual treatment. Every kid has a treatment plan, an individualized treatment plan. We do our own, they do their diagnostic testing there to find out if they have PTSD, if they have attachment disorder, if they have bipolar, if they have ADHD. We test them, we find out what's going on, and we treat them. And if it becomes that it is a psychiatric, then we have an agreement with the psychiatrist who sees our kids, in addition to our own in-house therapists that are there. They have group therapy. And then if the goal is to reunite them with family, then we do group sessions. However, that's very few and far between because all of our kids right now are in the custody of DSS there. And we now have a full-time doctor on staff. We have a director of nursing. I stole the director of nursing from Vanderbilt. She is a pediatric trauma nurse. So when a kid comes onto our campus, within 24 hours of admission, we examine them medically. They meet with the therapist. We begin our assessment. Then within 7 days, they meet the medical doctor. And then within 30 days, we have their comprehensive treatment plan. We have their comprehensive health assessment, and if there's anything that we need to do medically with their physical health as well. And so we've made a lot of changes, and we really intensified the services that we provide to the kids here. We're the only group home that has our own therapeutic model. We call it the Waccamaw Way because, yeah, we're at Lake Waccamaw. So we have the Waccamaw Way that's there that outlines the type of therapy that we give to kids and our culture and our core values and what we're trying to do with our kids. And basically it has 3 pillars. It's something I developed when I was in Kentucky. I call it the Triphasic model of community care, which is our vision statement. We're there to provide a sanctuary of health, healing, and hope there. And so that kind of is that linear progression that when the kid gets there, we're going to focus on their health, which is mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, providing them a safe place. Only until a kid feels safe can they go to the healing part. And then when they get to the healing part, our job, it's funny because, probably our most hated staff by the kids are therapists, and I meet with the kids. As a matter of fact, I met with some of our kids that are in leadership several weeks ago, and I talked about this, and I said, you know why you don't like your therapist? Because his or her job is to get you to the point where you let the monster out of the closet. You see, you're never going to heal until you get the monster out of the closet, because the monster has got to come out of that closet, and the clinician has to arm you with the tools so you can slay that monster. Because until you slay that monster, you will never experience life to the fullest, because that monster is always going to be lurking with you. And when we get on that journey towards healing, then hope. Every kid who comes to us has no hope. Most of them are wishing they were dead, because death is a whole lot painful than living with the painful memory of the abuse and neglect that they're going through. So we've also added, because research shows that not all people with trauma, especially kids, are good at talking to therapists. Because remember, one of the side effects of post-traumatic stress syndrome for a child and for a young person is what's called reattachment disorder. That is, they don't know how to have a relationship with another human because every human has abused them. And so they're scared. They can't trust them, they're lied to, they're physically hurt, they're mentally bullied, and so we now have 2 additional therapeutic techniques that we use, and one is animal-assisted therapy. So we have a partnership now with Paws for People out of Wilmington. Paws for People trains service dogs and facility dogs and place them a lot with vets who have PTSD, with people who have chronic diabetes, people who have MS, and facilities like psych hospitals and facilities like us. And so now we have a partnership with them, and we have 3 certified. They got more certifications and degrees than I have, and they know 102 commands, and they're trained specifically when a child to know when a child is anxious, when a child is angry, when a child is escalated, and we use certain commands. They go to the child, they calm the child down. Or if we're in a setting and they know somebody in that group is agitated, they'll bump us and let us know that we need to be alert, and they will let us know which child is getting anxious or scared or whatever. And so our director of nursing has a golden retriever, Kiwa. So within 24 hours, not only do they meet the director of nursing for their medical assessment, but they also meet Kiwa. And so Kiowa is with them during the medical assessment. When they go to the doctor, Kiowa goes with them, goes to the dentist. They're laying there, and Kiowa will lay on their body like putting pressure, like a security blanket, and it eases their anxiety when they go to the doctor. Our therapeutic recreation lady has Shawl, which is another golden retriever. So every time they're in therapeutic recreation, Shawl is there playing with them. Whatever they're doing outdoor, hiking, basketball, tennis, or whatever. And then I have a black lab, which is Zara. And so Zara, anytime I respond to a crisis, anytime I'm in the cottage, Zara goes with me. And I respond to every crisis on campus. And it's so interesting now because now kids know that when they get agitated, they've already experienced the calming effects excuse me, of our dogs. And so when they start feeling that they're getting triggered, they will actually tell their staff, can you please call for Kiowa? And so if it's 10 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, we get a call, whichever dog they request gets out of bed and goes to campus there. And then the other part is we also have equine therapy. We now have our therapist that's certified in the Agala technique, as well as our equine director over at the farm is certified in Agala. We're the only group home that has certified canines, as well as we're the only group home that offers Agala therapy. Agala is using our horses, and so we have several thoroughbreds, and then we have a donkey and a miniature horse, and then we have 3 ponies, babies that have just been born, and they're going to be trained specifically for Agala there. And that is a fascinating technique when those kids, and those are specially used for kids that have attachment disorders. And so what happens there is we put them in a corral, put the horse in the corral, we put the kid in the corral, and the staff back off and sit down and don't say anything. Okay? And so the whole interaction is between the horse and the child. And it is amazing to see what happens because a horse is so sensitive. They know how to read. They know if that child's fearful, just like the dog, if they can approach that child. And so we had one, and so the child was just shut down, and the child was in there, and the horse was in there, and he would look at her, she would look at him, he would look at her, and then they just made this contact. And at some point, his name's Gilligan, at some point, Gilligan felt, okay, it's okay, I can, and so he made a step towards her, and he stopped. And they just looked. And then he made another step. And he
This
got
is the horse.
This is the horse. We're not saying anything. All they're doing is taking notes and observing. And the horse got to the point where he was close enough, and he waited. And then he took his head with his nose, and he nudged her arm. And when he nudged her arm, then she started petting him. And now they're having conversations together. And because you see, the animal doesn't judge, the animal doesn't curse them out, the animal doesn't bully them, the animal doesn't abuse them. The animal just loves you, And so those are some neat things that's happening with our kids on campus. I would be remiss to say that in our community-based services, that's where we have the bulk of our foster kids. They're in foster families, they're in therapeutic foster care since July, from July until so the end of March, we've done 39 adoptions. That's unheard of. We're leading the state in adoptions. So 39 since July, And we're very excited about that and all of the neat things that's going on there. And we now have Success Coach. Are you familiar with Success Coach? Success Coach is a 24, we have somebody available 24/7. Anytime a foster family or adoptive family that's in our care are having a problem with their kid, can't get them to go to bed, kid's cussing them out or whatever, or kids escalating or whatever, they can call that and speak to a live person, and we coach them on how to resolve it. So they're not calling the police, they're not kicking the kid out, we're right there providing that 24-hour 7 support for that.
Now, how do you get the word out for that?
Well, it's through our, they're already our foster families, they're already our adoptive
Gotcha.
families.
Okay, so
with
they're
that.
already in the.
Yeah.
I got it.
Now, we're having a meeting this week because Wake County is interested in our program, but also Trillium Health Services. And Trillium is a big MCO here in eastern North Carolina. And because our results have been so good with it, they're wanting to talk with us about contracting us to provide that service to the families that's in their MCO. And so that could be a huge thing, because then it would spread not only those we're caring for, but the families that are involved with Trillium Health Services as well. And so we'll look to see what happens after that. And then our Child Advocacy Center in Whiteville, that's the front line. You know, when they're in community-based services, when they're in residential, they've already been removed from the home and are in DSS custody. The CAC, Child Advocacy Center, is on the front line. DSS gets a call about child abuse and neglect. Law enforcement gets involved. And so when that happens and DSS needs to investigate further, they come to us. And so they come to us, we have certified forensic interviews, and so we got a kid that we believe is being sexually abused. That's where our medical doctor is housed. Our medical doctor is a certified forensic sexual examiner. We have a medical office right there. It's a one-stop, everything is in that one building. And so we can do the exam, collect evidence right there, preserve the chain of command, of custody. And then we have a interview room where a forensic interviewer of ours goes in there. There's hidden cameras, there's hidden mics, and in the room next to us that nobody can see, you'll have the DA will be in there, DSS will be in there, and law enforcement will be in there, and our staff. And they're listening to the interview. And based on that interview, that's where they decide whether or not that they're going to arrest somebody. You know, if this is the case, they need to prosecute there. And just horrific stories. So there we're serving Columbus County, Bladen County, and Robeson County. So in those 3 counties alone, we've already had, I think the last count I got was we've already had 97 adults arrested.
And this is what, in what time frame?
That would have been in the last year. And that's just in 3 counties. And we have a waiting list with that, unfortunately. We had one of our, I think one of the, it's, our work can get risky. We had one of our teen moms that was sex trafficked, and law enforcement got a hold of her while they were looking for somebody else, but found her in this house and was pregnant, and so she came to us. Unfortunately, the pimp found out where she was at, because what happened is he ended up, while she was still with him, committing a bank robbery and killing somebody. And so when we were doing the forensic interview with her, we found out she knew all about it. you know, even down to the color tennis shoes he was wearing in the bank robbery. And this was just like, so in that room, you know, was the DA, was the U.S. attorney, ATF was in the room, the FBI was in the room, the sheriff's department was, I mean, it was packed with all these high officials. And so she was able to give enough specifics that, you know, they issued a warrant for him. Unfortunately, he found out where she was at and ended up actually calling the cottage she was in and wanting to speak to her, stating that he was the attorney. The staff pushed that call to me. We ended up tracing it. There actually was an attorney in the state of North Carolina named that. We talked to him and it was fraudulent. He says, I don't even handle such cases. So an alert had to be out for that. And then they were tracing his call, and it was a cell phone, and they were trying to ping it. And so we actually had to close our campus, lock down, and have law enforcement sit on our campus just because, you know, he was going to go away if they could find him, you know, and we certainly didn't want him coming on campus and trying to harm her in any way as the witness. And so we were locked down for about 9 days. That was really tough. It was 9 days, and at 10:30 one night I got a call from the U.S. Marshal. They had picked him up, and so we were able to go back off of that. So that's kind of a lot of things that's going on. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Other than, you know, I do want to say I want to thank you for all your support because, as you know, the federal government doesn't fully fund anything, you know, and, you know, the Boys and Girls Home would have closed down long ago, and so would every other residential across this nation if all they depended on was what they got from the government. Basically, we get about 60% of our cost, and the remaining 40% we got to raise, and that's just to break even. And but because of folks like you, we're able to do that, and you know, and so I want to say thank you. We have one of the lowest overhead and admins in the nation. You know, because basically it's down to like, you know, 50%. You know, as admin. And a good company is 30%, you know, and but we're proud to say that only 5% of every dollar you give goes to our overhead. That's unheard of. 95% goes directly to the services of the kids.
Do you ever have any children who are returned to their biological parents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because some come into care. Some come into care because of drug abuse, you know, and so if they go and abide by the court mandate, you know, not all are sexually abused, you know, especially the neglect. It could be from criminal behavior, but most of it, it's drug abuse. And so the judge will say, and DSS, these steps must happen before you can go back. And we have a say-so on that too, because then we're doing family engagement therapy. That's the good thing about it. And we can advocate on behalf of that child if we don't think the mother's ready, you know. And I mean, we've had family come and visit and try to sneak them cigarettes and pills and you name it, you know, and which is sad, which is really sad.
Ricky, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Stand up. A little token of our appreciation. I'm sure your cupboard needs one more cup.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you.
I have these everywhere I go.
Yeah, and we would like to thank you for all the work that you do. It is a blessing that we feel it's a blessing that we're associated with such a great organization.
Thank you.
And we want to present this check for $800, hoping that you will continue to do
Thank you
good.
so much.
Thank
Bless
you.
you. Thank y'all. Any other questions? Did I cover everything?
So you
Did a
have
good
done
job.
all this therapy stuff since you've been,
Mm-hmm.
any of that, had any of it been started before you came?
No. No, we had the only medical service we had was an EMT that was on staff that basically can't do anything, except put a Band-Aid on. But now, we have an RN, we have an LPN, we have a medical doctor. So we don't have, so we get to see our own kids when they get cold. So we don't have to take them to a family care doctor. We don't have to, and we can prescribe our own medicine, other than psychotropic drugs, but, and we do our own COVID testing. If a kid goes on family leave, when they come back, we drug test our kids. And now with Thomas Academy, we got a grant that's actually paying, from the state, that's actually paying for our entire nursing department, because we're providing nursing to Thomas Academy there. And so now, not only do our residential students get nursing, but now the community students that go to Thomas Academy, that many of them are neglected medically, they actually have somebody on site that can see them. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 5 certified therapists on staff, and then we have our medical doctor, and we have an RN and an LPN that's on
2.5
staff.
years you've been there, is that what you said?
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah, and we're fully compliant with the new federal law. And we were fully compliant as of last May. So we were the first group home in the
It's a
state.
feather in your cap.
Well, it was good that I'd already done it one time, so I was able to come and do it quick. But the neat thing is I had a good board that supported me and supported the direction to go in. And it's amazing. We're at the point now, Kiwanis and Rotary, we now renovated those because now we're going to see a level. We've got those. We're going to start seeing level 2 kids, which is a high. We've only done since 1954 only level 1. Now we're fixing to do level 2. We won that contract with Trillium, and the difference between level 1 and level 2 is level 2 kids are mandated to have therapy. That's the only difference. Level 1 kids don't have to have therapy. Level 2 do, because they already have a diagnosis of a mental health issue. So now we're going to have 2 cottages. And I can tell you, when they open, and they're going to open in the next couple of months, your cottage will be full. Both of them. Trillium is just waiting for the state. And then Civitan Cottage, it has just been renovated. We're fixing to start our first independent living program. We've already got 2 kids that we're getting ready to place there. Those kids will be able to stay there. They go in there when they're 18 years old, and they get to stay until they're 21. And so that'll be the first time we've had that. So they have to have a job or either go to college. And we'll provide those support services for them. So those are 2 new things that's coming online. Thank y'all. God bless y'all. I'm gonna head back to